Welcome to one and all. This is Vivek Singhal with CellStrat AI Lab, and I am the chief mentor at CS SmartKids program. We teach Python and AI to kids of age group 9 to 18 all around the world. So I welcome to our coding showcase here today, and very excited to see our students' projects demos. And let's be prepared to be amazed by the work these young geeks are doing. So with that, let's begin. So just a brief intro on the program. So we are basically an AI research lab called CellStrat AI Lab, and we have a program for kids of 10 to 18 or 9 to 18-year-old really, and we call it CS Smart Kids program. Here we teach Python, AI, ML, and deep learning to kids of young age, and we believe that kids are the future tech leaders of the world, as tech is driving the world pretty much now, and everything is going the tech way. So developing these coding skills and AI skills is extremely useful for young kids, and we are incredibly amazed by what these kids are able to accomplish. uh, so the courses we used to teach to grown-ups in AI and ML, now we are able to teach to the kids as well, and they do some incredible projects. We'll see some of them today, and over the rest of the year, we'll see a lot more projects coming from our kids programs. And primarily because it's for this technology, AI and ML, and so we start with Python coding, and then we continue with artificial intelligence and machine learning courses, and later on deep learning, and followed by some product development
Vivek, your voice is disappearing.
Can you hear me now? I changed my Wi-Fi router.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So this is the developer hub where we have now launched for all of our students, and so this is running on Amazon Cloud, as all of our students will be programming Python and AI projects in this online cloud, right? So we are developing a large scale, online cloud platform for our students to learn, Python and AI on the cloud directly, and then later on launch some products on this platform. So that's what we do. And if you have any questions about CellStrat or our CS Smart Kids program, do let me know. Many of you are our existing parents and students. Some of you are new guests, and we are pleased to have you all here. So, just for those of you who are not knowing about artificial intelligence, this is the way, we train robots, we train games, we train like Netflix applications, like movie recommending movies, e-commerce applications on Amazon, right? So this is the way all of these cool applications are being trained, chatbots, the Amazon Kindle remote or the Amazon Alexa, speaker, driverless cars. So this is best demonstrated by seeing some demos. So let me actually now show you some demos of some of these applications, because the applications of AI are so remarkable and so exciting that it is really interesting to see what is it able to accomplish, and to say that our kids will be doing these kind of products in the future. So this is a driverless car, which can see on the road by itself, and you can just sit in the passenger seat, and the driver is not required, and the car is able to drive itself. This is the same thing which you can see here. So a driverless car which is using a domain called computer vision AI to segment the road and drive by itself. So later on, our kids will be developing such kind of applications. Just a moment. So this is a racing car game. We are training with a AI technique called reinforcement learning, and the idea is to train this racing car which can so that it can stay on this roadway, and that's where how it maximizes its score or points, right? So it is veering off the road, so it needs some more training. Let me show you a few more. I'll show you a very cool Air Force application. So when given images, we can segment these images using Vision AI, and this uses deep learning algorithms or neural networks. So you can see here we are identifying the objects with a probability score, like truck with a 92% probability, a person with 15% probability, right? So these are the kind of applications we can do with advanced AI computer vision. So the Air Force planes. So from satellite image, we can identify the planes, right? So let me show you a video of the same thing, which is very cool. So this is a Indian Air Force aircraft, the Sukhoi, fighter aircraft from Indian Air Force. It's an old style Indian Air Force aircraft. So from satellite imagery or ground cameras, it's giving us a video feed, and we are applying computer vision AI solution to segment this. So this is using advanced neural network techniques called convolutional neural networks, and which so in the sometime in the future, our kids should be able to develop these kind of applications. So this is a trailer of a movie, a Chinese war movie. So here we are segmenting, the soldiers as they are moving using a pose estimation algorithm. This allows us to detect the movement of the soldiers and their posture, right? So like this, there are lots of interesting applications which we can develop with advanced artificial intelligence. And we are pretty certain that some of our kids will reach the advanced AI stage before they graduate from school and develop some of these cool products. And this is what we call as natural language processing technique, where we take, let's say a novel or an article, and we are able to develop a question answer search engine. So this is how some of these techniques are used by Google and Amazon for their applications as well. If you use Google Translate for language translation, it is using AI. If you watch Netflix movies, and it recommends movies and series to you with help of AI. So this is the power of AI, and hence we all like to learn it. And with that, any questions before we bring our first presenter for the day? Okay, so I hope you enjoyed some of those AI demos. And just to reiterate, for some of you who joined recently, we are a Python and AI training company, and we are backed by CellStrat AI Lab, which is a very advanced AI research group. And we have almost 200 AI scientists in our AI lab, and supported by an online meetup community of 15,000 AI enthusiasts around the world. And now we have a very growing CS SmartKids program, and our kids are doing wonderful Python and AI projects, which will see demos of today. Okay. So if there are no other questions for now, I like to invite our first presenter, Pankaj Jaluri, from Denver, Colorado. Pankaj,
Hello everyone.
yeah,
I'm Pankaj Jaluri, and I'm in ninth grade, and I'm doing Python level 3. So today I'm going to be presenting the code, the geometry calculator I made with Python. So let me share my screen. Um, Please let me know if you can see my screen.
yes, it's visible, Pankaj, all good.
So basically, I created this geometry calculator with Python. So in simple terms, it calculates the area and the perimeter of different shapes. So the user will be given the choice of choosing the shape, and then he will be required to pass the parameters of the shape. So and those parameters will give the area and the perimeter of that shape. Area is like the area is defined as the area occupied by the two-dimensional shape, and the perimeter refers to the boundary of a two-dimensional shape. So I designed this code using classes and objects. So basically, a class is a user-defined prototype for an object that defines a set of attributes that characterize any objects of the class. Basically, a class creates a template for an object. And an object is a unique instance of a data structure that is defined by its class. In this case, each shape is a class, and each shape has its own set of variables that are required to give the area and other outputs. For example, a rectangle to calculate the area of a rectangle, we would need the length and the width as its attributes. But for a circle, we would be required the radius. Moreover, each class has a bunch of formulas that will um, that will provide the area of each specific shape. Overall, classes help us organize our code better and create a combination of functions which can be very useful. So this is how a class program is written. First, we're defining the class using the class function. Then we are using this constructor called init function, where we define the parameters. So since this is a rectangle class, we define the length and the width. And now after that, we create different functions. Here I have an area function, which has the area formula of the rectangle. And here I have the perimeter, which has the perimeter formula of the rectangle. So, and once we pass, so basically, and we can define an object like this. So I created this object called rec, and I'm passing 3 as the width and 4 as the length. And if by using this dot notation, I could call for the area and the perimeter and the dimensions of each of that shape. So these are the shapes in the code, and let me show the code to you.
So, students, this
So
is a object-oriented programming using classes and objects concepts. Some of you may have reached that point, but maybe some of you have not. So, if you don't know about it yet, don't worry. All of you will reach that point, classes and objects.
As I said before, the input will be the required parameters for each shape, and the output will be the area, perimeter, and the dimensions of the shape. So we have to like run all these. So the so let me run all these, and so I have 9 shapes in total. And here the user has to choose the shape. So if we run, so 1 is for rectangle, 2 is for sphere, and 3 is for triangle, so on. So suppose I'm calculating the area of a polygon. I type in 5. Now I have to click run. So for a polygon, it asks the side length of each side. So suppose I say the side length is 5, the number of sides is 6. It will print this. So the area is 64.95 square units. The perimeter is this, and the dimensions are this. The dimensions are just given to like to verify. So this is how the calculator works, and I'll be showing multiple shapes. So, and this is a trapezoid, and if I run it, so the height, suppose this, I say the height is 10 units, and the base is 5 units, and the upper base, lower base is 10 units. The side is, say, 8, and the other side is 9, and this will give the area and the perimeter. So this is how the calculator works. Let me know if you have any other questions. And thank you for seeing my presentation.
So very nice, Pankaj. So this is a geometric calculator developed by Pankaj, and here he is showing various shapes and using the classes or object-oriented architecture, and then he has developed the area and perimeter calculation for each shape. And you instantiate that class later on, and then you can call the relevant area calculator or the perimeter calculator. Any questions for Pankaj from audience? Okay, so thanks a lot, Pankaj. Very nicely done. Now let me go to our next student. So we have a total of, I think, around 12 or 13 demos. And uh, for no other reason but just for organization, I guess I'll try to go from younger to older, so that we give a chance to our younger folks first. So how about we start with Manya Gupta. Manya, are you ready to present?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Manya, please share your screen and you can begin your presentation. You can describe yourself in one line and then begin your presentation.
Good
So,
morning.
so folks, Manya is a third grader, so very one of our youngest kids. So Manya, go for it.
Yeah, I'm 7 years old. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to share you how I made the speech translator. So I went to a show and I wanted to have a doll, but there was a problem. The doll could only speak French and I did not know French. So then I had an idea. Why not build a language translator using Python? So we first started by searching input speech recognition and translator libraries, defining the sound recognition on our system. Set the mic to use on our machine. Then create a speech recognition object. The built-in microphone, built-in output. Set mic to use the built-in microphone. Let's speak something in English to translate. Hi, I would like to have some milk. So here I tell that here is the voice ID.
You're selecting which one to use. You're finding.
So here I'm finding which one to select. Here assign the voice and language. So here it translates English into French.
Je voudrais avoir du lait.
So this is how it works. And now mom has to buy me a doll.
All right, so very nice. In a very interesting project. So, audience, any questions for our young friend Manya here? It's an English to French translator.
Yes, sir. It's in first I say English, then I did text into French.
Excellent job, Manya. Very well done.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so if there are no questions, let me continue here. So I am going young to older slowly, or roughly speaking, at least. So let me go to, is Naren Karthik available here? Naren, are you all set?
Yes, sir.
So Naren, go for it. Please share your screen.
Okay, sir. Hello, everyone. My name is Naren, and today I'm going to present to you my project. So this project demonstrates for loop in Python by drawing a triangle of asterisks. The star like this. The program asks the user to enter the size of the triangle in the number of rows and then draws a triangle. So by drawing a triangle on paper, I noticed each row can be drawn by repeating a block of a space plus asterisk. The current row number of times. And I also noticed that at the start of each row, spaces need to be there. And the spaces need to be the total number of rows minus the current row it's on. So that will be, in this case, it's 5 minus 4 equals 1. And then 5 minus 3 equals 2. 5 minus 2 equals 3. And 5 minus 1 equals 4. Okay. So next, here's my code. So first we ask the user for the input, which we ask, please enter a number between 2 and 20 for the number of rows. Next, we input it and make it into an integer because we need it to be an integer. And then we check if it's between 2 and 20, or else because we need to know if the triangle will be just the perfect size in the middle, too big or too small. So next we create the block, which is the space plus asterisk, and then we do the for loop, which is for row number in range 1 to the total rows plus 1, which is 1 to the total inputted number of rows plus 1, because if we input 5, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4. It will print 1, 2, 3, and 4. It won't print 5, so that's why we need the plus 1. Next, we create a variable which is row block, which is for the full row. It will be the row number times block. And in Python, you can multiply strings you can make the string. You can multiply strings because it will copy the strings the number of times needed. Next, we create the num spaces, which is the number of spaces, which is total rows minus row number, I which I told you in the previous slide. PPT. And then we print a full row, which is the spaces plus row block. So that will equal the full row, and then you print the full row. And over here, the else part is for the if it's not the equal, if it's not between 2 and 20, we print please restart and enter a number between 2 and 20. I will show it to you now. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, nice, Naren. So that is a pattern printing program. It prints a triangle of asterisks, right, using a for loop. So nice. Any questions for Naren by any audience? Okay, so great, Naren. So let me go to our next presenter. As I said, I am going from young to older, just to get encourage our young ones, and then let's go to, I guess, Nived. Is Nived ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nived. So please share your screen and you can get started. Just introduce yourself in one line, and then you can show your project.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nived, and I'm going to show you my presentation about the random password generator. If you're wondering what a random password generator is, it is a software program that takes input from a random number generator and automatically generates a password. Random password generator using a computer, or it can also be done manually. It helps users create stronger passwords that provide greater security for a given type of access. The password contains separate constants for lowercase letters, uppercase letters, digits, and special symbols, which we use as a source to generate a random password. Why is the password generator used? A password generator offers a good display of all your credentials. A password generator saves you from memorizing hundreds of passwords. The primary objective of using a generator is creation of strong and unpredictable passwords for all your accounts. The stronger your password, the more protected your computer will be from hackers and malicious software. They can also be used to make one-time password, which is also known as OTPs. OTPs are normally 6-digit numbers, and the random function is used to make it. The random module. The random module which I'll be using in my program is a built-in function to generate random variables. It can be used to perform some actions randomly, such as to get a random number, selecting a random element from a list, or getting a random number from a given range, etc. To get access to the random module, we add from the random import to the top of our program. The random function is another function that gets a random integer from a given range. For example, random.randint in brackets 0, 10 will return a random number between 0 to 10. This is the picture of the random password generator code. I am going to show you the code in the Jupyter notebook. This is the random password generator code, and the top here I've imported the random module as ran, and in the list 1 I have given all the letters between A to Z in lowercase letters. In list 2 I've given all the letters from A to Z in uppercase letters, and in list 3 has some of the special characters. And here I've defined the function called password. In that I've given 8 variables, which is A, which is equal to, will take a random letter from list 1, B, which will take a random number from between 0 to 4, C, which will take a random letter from list 2,
and D will take a random special character from list 3. Similarly, A1 will take a random letter from list 1 again. B1 will take a random number between 5 to 9. C1 will take a random letter in list 2, and D1 will take a random special character in list 3. And here I've printed all the variables, and I've called the function. I'm going to run the program. Here is the random password code, which first is the small character, which is A, and lowercase. This is the integer between 0 to 4. The capital, the uppercase letter, which is C. The special character, which is D. N in lowercase, which is A1. 5, which is B1, which is between 5 and 9. E, which is between list 2, and the special character, which is D1. And here I have done another program which will generate OTP. So in the first, I have imported the random module as ran, and I'm going in a for loop, which is will go from 1 to 6 because 7 is not included. So if when x will be equal to 1, that time it will print a random letter, a random number from 1 to 9. Else, if it's not 1, it will print a random number between 0 to 9. And here I've given end equal to nothing, because it will come in a line like this, which is a 6-digit random number generator. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, very good, Nived. So, friends, any questions for Nived? So that was a random number generator. Thank you, Salim. Thank you, Salim, sir. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay, so let's keep going here. Next, I like to invite Dhruv Anand, again a 7th grader. So Dhruv, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm just ready.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dhruv Anand, a 7th grader from AKR Schools, and today I will be presenting my project on predicting fields like temperature using linear regression. What is machine learning? Machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence where the machine gets trained on data and builds mathematical models. These models can be used to predict the outcome of unseen or new data. What are the 3 basic types of machine learning? Supervised learning, as the name suggests, needs supervision. As in, during the training phase, we have to provide the value of the outcome variable. Based on the inputs and known outcome variables, it builds a mathematical model. Unsupervised learning, on the other hand, does not need labeled data. They mainly use clustering algorithms to group similar data together. Reinforcement learning is how a dog learns good behavior versus bad behavior. First, we reward the dog, then it behaves properly, and we punish it for bad behavior. Over time, it learns what is good behavior to maximize rewards. What is regression? Regression is a set of supervised learning algorithms which enables us to predict y, the dependent variable, given x, the independent variable. What is linear regression? Linear regression, as the name suggests, can be used to model linear relationships between independent variables and dependent variables. Based on input data and label, it tries to fit a line such as the error is minimized between the predicted value and actual value. What are the uses of linear regression? These are some uses of linear regression where there's a linear relationship between the independent and dependent variable. The first example is predicting the value of a house from its size. Another example is predicting money spent on a trip using distance traveled. And predicting insurance charges using medical information like age and predicting crop yield using rainfall. And lastly, we can predict height from weight of person. What is feels like temperature? Feels like temperature is how hot or cold it feels outside. It changes depending on wind speed, humidity, weather, and our understanding of the human body. Usually, the difference between feels like temperature and actual temperature is 3 to 5 Celsius, but in extreme cases, the difference in feels like temperature and actual temperature can be over 20 Celsius. This is my data set. It has 10,887 rows and 12 columns, which is more than enough for my use case. I got it from Kaggle and it was actually built for a bike share business. I'm using wind speed, temperature, humidity as my independent variable, and I'm using A temp, which is actually feels like temperature, as my Y variable. My code. First, we import all needed Python libraries such as NumPy, sklearn, and visualization libraries such as Seaborn and Matplotlib. Then we read out the dataset byteshare.csv into a data frame. Next, this is just the data frame I printed the data frame out. Next, I use iLog, which is a method of data frame. We extract 3 columns, temperature, humidity, and wind speed, which will be our independent variables and loaded into X, so as shown here. And similarly, temp is loaded into the Y data frame. And then I print out their shapes, so we can see that X has 10,886 rows and 3 columns, and Y has 10,886 rows and 1 column. Next, we use visualization library. We get to see how each independent variable is related to the fields like temperature. As seen in the leftmost graph, there's an obvious linear relationship between actual temperature and feels like temperature. On the other hand, increased humidity and wind speed tends to decrease the feels like temperature. In machine learning, we split the dataset into training and test datasets. This is done so that the model doesn't overfit the training dataset, and we know how it will behave on unseen data. So we hide away a part of the data to test and the accuracy of the model. In this case, I hid away 22% of the test data. This is the output, so that now we can see that that training has 8,491 rows and then test has 2,395 rows. sklearn provides us with machine learning algorithms using the best method of linear regression. The algorithm tries to find the best line that can most accurately model the relationship between dependent and independent variables. The algorithm internally iterates multiple times to find the line that best minimizes the root square mean error between the actual and predicted values. This is the line that the linear regression is found. The line had 2 key properties. The slope, which is how steep it is. The slope is rate of change in y for a corresponding change in x. In this case, change in real temperature has the most impact on feels like temperature, as its coefficient is 1.07, while the other 2 variables have less impact on feels like temperature. In fact, wind speed shows a negative coefficient, so an increase in wind speed will lead to a decrease in feels like temperature. The other property is intercept. It is the value of x when x is 0. Print. Predict method is used to predict the outcome. We can predict on both the data training data set and the test data set to see how the model fares. So this is basically the output, which is test error and actual. So we can see it has a margin of around 5. Next time, we calculate the root skew mean error, which is a measure of the model's accuracy. A lower root skew error means that the model is better. As mentioned earlier, the model's objective is to fit a line that minimizes the root mean error. We print RMSE for both training dataset and test dataset. Training dataset has a slightly higher error than the test dataset. It's usually the other way around. So this is my code and output. And I just put this on the fly. Over here, I'm using regressor and dot predict, and then inputting the and then I'm inputting the values for Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So it's 32 degrees there. The humidity is 64% and the wind speed is 10. So over here, which is the code, we are inputting 32 degrees as the first one, 64 humidity and 10, which shows us 36.37 as the predicted value for field side temperature, which is close to the actual 37 it feels like. Thank you.
Okay, very nicely done, Dhruv. So, students, you may not have understood all of you because this is a machine learning AI program. So, after we finish the Python course, we'll be continuing with artificial intelligence and machine learning course. So, that's what this program is. It's a linear regression program. It's a basic AI model, and Dhruv is part of the AI batch, and that's why. So, nicely done, Dhruv. Very interesting program. So in Chennai, they say because of the humidity, even though the temperature may be lower, but it may feel higher. So that could be an interesting analysis we have done there, based on the other conditions we are trying to check how it feels like. So sometimes it's not that hot, but it feels like hotter, right? So that often happens due to humidity and other factors. So nicely done. Any questions, students? Or audience in general, any questions for Dhruv here? Okay, so let me then take it up with the next student. So how about Swastik? Is Swastik present?
Yes, sir.
So Swastik, go for it. You can share your screen.
Okay, sir. Hello everyone, I am Swastik Narang and I am here to explain how code helps our daily life. Every day we use electronic devices like smartphones, tablets, laptops, even air conditioners and cars require code. I have also prepared some sample code. For my first code, I have made a password checker. For my second code, I have made a program that can tell us if a certain item is present in a list. And for my last code, I have made a currency changer that can convert Indian rupees to US dollars, euro, British pound, and Canadian dollars. Now I will show you how my code works. For my first code, it first asks us for an input. If our input is equal to the password put here before, it will tell us accordingly if it is correct or not. For my second code, it also asks us for an input, and if the input is present in the list, it will check it and also tell us accordingly. And for my last code, it will first check, ask us for a input for which currency we want to convert the Indian rupee to, and if we type in a currency that is not before present here, it will show us a output that is not correct. But if we put in a currency that is actually put in there, first it asks us how much money we want to convert it into Indian rupees, and then it will tell us how much uh, cur- specific current how much it is in the specific currency we chose, and that is how much I prepared. Thank you for joining me, I guess.
Okay, nice, Swastik. Thanks for that. So Swastik showed a password checker and as well as a value in a list checker and also currency translator, right? Like US dollars to Indian rupee and
Yes.
so on. So any questions for Swastik here, audience? Okay, so let me proceed with the next student. Thanks, Swastik. I like to invite Satvik. Satvik, are you ready? Satvik Surag.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go for it then.
Sir, can you see it?
Yes, all good.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Satvik Surag, and I'll be showing a Python presentation on conditions and a code demo. So these are the topics. What is Python? Why should you learn Python? Basic data types in Python, strings and integers, conditions, and the code demo. So what is Python? Python is a high-level general purpose programming language. It is a high-level programming language because Python works in multiple operating systems like Mac, Windows, and so on. It is a general-purpose programming language because Python can be used for a broad range of application development like game development, machine learning, scientific computing, web applications, and so on. So why should you learn Python? Python is great for beginners as it has a simple syntax. At the same time, it is used by large companies like Google, Dropbox, Instagram, and so on. So Dropbox is basically like a software program like Google Drive. Python has a large community of users, making it easy to ask help. Also has a large collection of libraries and tools. This helps us to build functionalities like complex data analysis, visualizations, and so on. This also helps us to automate the day-to-day tasks like reading and organizing files, scraping web pages, downloading pictures, sending email and text messages, and so on. So these are the basic data types in Python: Boolean, integer, float, and so on. Strings and integers. Strings are sequence of character data. The string type in Python is denoted as str. String literals may be delimited using either single or double quotes, which means that the string may be between single or double quotes. Integers are positive or negative numbers with no decimal points. The integer type in Python is denoted as int. So conditions. This is the main element that I'll be going through. A common way of representing conditions in Python is using if, elif, else statements. An if statement is written using the if keyword. An elif keyword implies if the previous condition in the if statement is not true, try this condition. An else keyword implies if the previous conditions are not met, perform the action mentioned there. So I'll be going through this code demo in Jupyter Notebook. So in this program, If we give the triangle, square, or rectangle, it will ask us for the height, base, length, or the breadth, and it will find the area. For example, if you type triangle, it will give us the option of writing enter or set the height and the base. If we give square, it will give us the length and the rectangle, the length and the breadth. And if we don't give either of these and give something like, for example, circle, it will show us that you should write triangle, square, or rectangle. Thank you.
Okay, nice, Satvik. So Satvik was demonstrating the concept of if else and various conditions to be checked with the if command. So audience or students, any questions for Satvik? Okay, so in that case, so thanks, Satvik. Nicely done. I'll move to our next student, Ayush. Ayush, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Ayush, go for it.
Yeah. So can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So hi, I am Ayush Nag and I'm going to present an animal quiz game. So now what does the program works? The program plays the game by asking the question to the user, and if the user guesses the animal correct, you get 1 point, and then it heads off to the next question. And if the user's guess is wrong, it tells the user to guess it again, and the user gets a total of 3 chances for each question. So now what's the logic? At the very first line of code, we create a function called checkGuess and pass two parameters, that is guess and answer, and we create the following variables: score and attempt. Now the variable score keeps a record of the user's score, and attempt is the chances got by the user to guess one question. Now we loop through the program and say while attempt is less than 3, and now if the guess and answer are same, then we say correct answer and break out of the loop. And if the guess is wrong, it will go to the else block and say the user to guess again. And if the chances gets over, then he or she would get 0 point for the question. In the last line, it will finally print the score. Now let me show you the code demo. So as I said before, we created a function called checkGuess and passed two parameters, that is guess and answer. We create a global variable score and assign the attempt variable to 0. Now while the attempt is less than 3, we say that if the guess is equal to answer, then we say correct answer and increment the score by 1, and we break out of the loop. And else if the guess is wrong, then we say sorry, wrong answer, try again, and the attempt increases. Now if the attempt is equal to 3, then we say the correct answer to the user. Now here we see we take input from the user and we pass these two arguments, this guess one and the correct answer, that is polar bear, and now it again passes these parameters. Now if the guess and answer are same, we say it is the correct answer. Now let me run it. Now if I say it's polar bear, then it says correct answer. Now what if I input a wrong answer? Then it says sorry, wrong answer, try again. Then if I keep going writing a wrong answer, then it shows me the correct answer and heads up to the next question. So now again I give the correct answer and my score is 2 since I got one question wrong. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ayush. So that was an animal guessing game.
Yeah.
And if you give the wrong answer, it tells you wrong. And if you give correct answer, it points that out. Any questions for Ayush, friends?
Ayush, I think it was very well explained. The way it was, the way you thought about it, and the way you implemented it was very well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Salim sir. Any other questions, audience? Okay, so then let's go to our next student here. I'm just checking my list. Arya Jain. Arya, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so go for it.
Yes, okay. So, good morning, everyone. I'm Arya Jain. I study in ninth grade, and now I'm going to show you a presentation on logistic regression. So, what is logistic regression? So, basically, there are two types of machine learning. One is regression, and one is classification. So, logistic regression falls in the category of classification. So, in classification, as the name suggests, we divide data into different classes. For example, if we have pictures of dogs and cats, through classification, we can differentiate between the pictures we have by using parameters like the eye size, the nose, the size of the nose, etc. By using input as pictures of dogs and cats through AI. So, in logistic regression, we show the relation between two or more variables to classify our output as true or false. For example, if we are making a program to tell whether a person has a risk of getting a heart attack in the future, we can tell that using logistic regression. So now I'm going to present my project diabetes prediction model, which is a logistic regression model. So in this AI model, I have built to predict if some person has a risk of getting diabetes or not. In the data set that I have taken, we have 8 parameters to test whether the person has diabetes or not, which are the number of times pregnant, plasma glucose concentration, which is at 2 hours in an oral glucose tolerance test, diastolic blood pressure, tricep skin fold thickness, 2-hour serum insulin, body mass index, the diabetes pedigree function, and the age of the person. So now I'm going to show you my code. So basically, about a model and its accuracy. So in my model, I got 74% accuracy, as you can see over here, and got 59 misclassified samples. So according to me, 74% accuracy is a very big achievement because in real life situations, we have to get more than thousands of data points and we have to cover all the parameters. While in my case, I have taken only 700 rows and 8 parameters. If we take thousands of data points and cover all the parameters, still it's very difficult to even get 90% accuracy. The graph that you see on the right is the result of my program. So this red area depicts 0, which means false, and the blue area over here depicts true, which is 1. So these red crosses should be in the blue area and these red boxes should be in the red area. If this happens, then we are getting 100% accuracy. But as we see, so we are getting 74% accuracy. That's why these samples are mixed. And we have misclassified samples. We have 59 misclassified samples. That's why if we observe closely, then we can count that there are 59 samples that have been ordered incorrectly. I'll just show the code. So this is the code of our model. So in the first cell, I've imported all the libraries that we need for logistic regression. Then in this cell, I have imported this PIMA Indian diabetes data set, which I'm using. So this is a data set. I have 756 rows, 68 rows, and 9 columns. The first 8 columns are the parameters that have been taken, and the ninth row is the output. The parameters would be considered in the x variable, and the output would be considered in the y variable. In this cell, we are pre-processing the data. So basically, we are pre-processing the data so that we can decrease the complexity of the program. So over here, we are taking pregnancy more than 8 should be 8. Then we are categorizing the age into 5 buckets. So first category is age less than equal to 30 should be categorized as 1. Age more than 30 and less than equal to 40 should be categorized as category 2. The age more than 40 and less than equal to 50 should be categorized as category 3. The age more than 50 and less than equal to 60 should be categorized as category 4. And the age more than 60 should be considered as category 5. Then in the cell, we are creating the x and y variables. So in the x variable, we are taking all the rows and the first and the fifth column. And in the y variable, we are taking all the rows and the eighth to ninth column. Basic in the x variable, we are not taking all the columns because for example, if we take 3 columns, then we'll have to create a 3D graph. So over here, we only have to make a 2D graph because if we take more and more rows, more and more columns, then if we take all the columns which are 8 columns, then we'll have to make a 8D graph, which is not possible. Then over here, we are making these variable xtrain, xtest, ytrain, and ytest, and we are splitting the data into 70 and 30. So the 70% data is going into the training data set, and the 30% data is going into test data. So over here, then we are training and evaluating the data. So we are creating the ypred variable in which we are predicting the xtest data, which we have taken as example to test the accuracy of a model. Then we print our misclassified samples, which is 59, and then we are printing the accuracy of the model, which is 74%. So our machine gives the percentage it is 74 by 100. So it is coming 0.74, but the accuracy is actually 74%. Then in this cell, we are plotting the graph as the output. Then over here, we are plotting the decision boundary. So we are creating like the labels or in the graph. So example, this plasma glucose concentration, we are labeling the X variable over here, plasma glucose concentration. Then we are labeling the Y variable as body mass index, as you can see over here. Then we are plotting the legend on the upper left, which is over here. Then we are plotting the title with diabetes logistic regression over here. So this is the graph. This is the same graph over here. So this is the whole fully trained and tested data set data model. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Arya. Nicely done. So, friends, this was a logistic regression program which is taught in the machine learning course. So, some of you are from Python. You'll reach there once you reach the AIML course. Any questions for Arya here? This was a classification logic, right, for diabetes prediction using a
Yes, sir.
certain Microsoft Excel data set provided by a hospital. Any questions, audience? So, as you can see that our students are doing machine learning AI. So, our students continue to surprise us that they are able to learn a very advanced concept like AI also, and machine learning, which is mathematically also intense. So, I think we can go very far with all of you, and really glad to see all your projects. And now I'll share one presentation by one of our students. No, actually, I have one student here. Is Ashisha available? Ashi, are you available?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can present your project, Ashi. Just introduce yourself in one line, and then you can present your project.
My name's Ashi, and I'm in 10th grade. And I'll be doing a simple calculator and a story generator. Can you see my screen?
Yes, all good.
Okay. So a simple calculator is where the user chooses from the four operations given: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division as 1, 2, 3, and 4 respectively. So after they've chosen their operation, the user enters their choices for the two numbers. And if they have chosen operation 1, that is addition, the two numbers are added. If they've chosen option 2, or subtraction, the second number is subtracted from the first. If they've chosen multiplication, the product of the two numbers are given. And if they've chosen division, the first number is divided by the second. If any other character is entered when the user has to enter the operation, it will say that it's not possible. So this is the code. I'll run it. So say I'm choosing the third option, that is multiplication, and I enter for the first number, I enter 5, and the second number, I enter 4. The answer is given as 20. For the story generator, a random function is important, and that function chooses any option from a given range of, or a list or anything. So for the story generator, in the code, options for the time, place, person, exact location, and incident are given. And when it is chosen, a story will be printed out with connecting words with the random choices. So as you can see over here, for the time, person, name, what it is, the residence, what happened, the options are given. And with the random choice function, from this list, from each list, a random option will be selected. And when you run this, the story will be printed. So from here, it says a long time ago, from when a cat, that is who, lived in India, went to school and found a secret key, from each of the options respectively. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, interesting. So that was a calculator and a story generator. So Ashi was in the randomizer program. She was using the random command to select from a set of choices or lists to create a random story. So this is also called generative modeling. In the domain of artificial intelligence, we have a concept of generative modeling, where we can generate, new text or stories or novels or movies or music. So nicely done. So any questions for Ashi here? From our London friends again, which have sent us recordings. So Megan, are you ready to present?
Yes, sir. 1 minute.
Okay, go for it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, all good. Continue, please.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Megan Single, and today I will be showcasing the topic patterns in Python. So, what are loops? In computer science, a loop is a programming structure that repeats a sequence of instructions until a specific condition is met. Programmers use loops to cycle through values, add sums of numbers, repeat functions, and many other things. Two of the most common types of loops are the while loop and the for loop. Now let's talk about patterns. Patterns can be printed in Python using simple for loops. The first outer loop is used to handle the number of rows, and the second inner loop is used to handle the number of columns. The different types of patterns are number, character, simple pyramid, inverted, diamond, and star patterns. Now, how do we print a pattern? The first step is to input the number of rows and number of columns using the input function to determine the size of the pattern. As we already discussed before, the outer loop handles the number of rows and the inner loop handles the number of columns. The second step is to iterate rows and columns using the range function. The third step is to print the required pattern, such as star, number, character, using the print function. And the last step is to add a new line after every outer loop iteration so the pattern is displayed properly. So here are a few random patterns. There are number patterns, character patterns, pyramid patterns, star patterns, etc. Now I will show you how to execute a few patterns in Python using Jupyter Notebook. So say you would want to print this first number pattern. What we're going to do is, we're going to input the number of rows to be printed in X. Then as mentioned before, we would have an outer loop that handles number of rows and an inner loop that handles number of columns. Here, the outer loop control variable is I and the inner loop control variable is J. The outer loop loops from 1 to X plus 1 and the inner loop loops from 1 to I plus 1. Now we're going to print the value in J and leave a space after it in order to get gaps in between the printed numbers.
I think there is a question here. Anika Bharti, you have a question?
No, not now.
Okay, fine. Megan, continue, please.
Okay. Then after printing the value of J, we would add a space after it. And then after that, this print statement is for, this print statement goes to the next line after each inner loop, outer loop iteration in order to get the desired pattern. So let's see how this program runs. Say I input 6. This is what we're going to get as the output. Now, if we want to change the pattern to look something like this, you can see the difference in the first pattern and the second pattern, right? So all we'll have to do here is change this J to I. And instead, you would get the pattern looking like this. Now let's move on to the second program where we print a pattern with alphabets. Again, the first step would be to input the number of rows. Now, as we know, ASCII values are the numbers corresponding to the respective characters. So ASCII values of capital A to capital Z is 65 to 90. Thus, we would assign num to the ASCII value of A, which is 65. Now again, we would have a nested loop as in the previous program. An outer loop looping from 1 to n plus 1, and an inner loop looping from 1 to I plus 1. Now, as we need to print the letter and not its ASCII value, we will explicitly convert the ASCII value to character inside the loop. Then we print the character to be printed and leave gaps between the printed characters. Next, we increment num by 1 so that it goes to the next letter and then the loop goes on. So let's just run this. As we can see, it's printing the alphabets. Now, as I mentioned before, ASCII values of capital A to capital Z is 65 to 90. So in the loop, we saw that num keeps getting incremented by 1. But what happens if num crosses 90? It would start printing other characters which are not letters, and we don't want that. So here, what I have done is, if num crosses 90, we will reset it back to 65 so that it starts all over back from A. Let's try that again. Now, as we can see here, after Z, it starts from A, and that's what happens. Now, let's move on to the next program. Say we would want to print this pattern of numbers where it goes 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and so on. So again, we're going to input the number of rows. Now again, instead of inputting, we can assign, but I have inputted. So we input the number of rows into A, and then the outer loop goes from 1 to A plus 2. Now you might wonder why A plus 2 and why not A plus 1. So let's try with A plus 1 and see what happens. I've entered 4, but I've only got till 3. That's why we need to put this as A plus 2. Here, there's 4. Okay, so after the outer loop goes from 1 to A plus 2, there's 2 inner loops. One is J and one is K. So the first inner loop will go from 1 to I minus 1, and then it will print J and leave a space after. Now we need 2 inner loops because, as we can see in the pattern, it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then after that, there's another number over here. That's why we need a second inner loop. So the second inner loop is going to go from I minus 1 to 0. And this third factor is to tell us that it's being decremented. After that, we print K and leave a space. And again, there's one more print function over here so that it goes to the next line. So let's just run that again. And here, this is how it looks. Now let's move on to patterns of equilateral triangle using asterisk symbol. So this is a simple equilateral triangle. All we have to do is, again, we input the number of rows, and here we need number of spaces also. So we've assigned K is equal to n minus 1. Number of spaces because before this is printed, there's spaces over here. N minus 1 because if this, for example, if n is 5, then it will be printed over here, but then before that, we still need 4 spaces in front of it. So we'll have an outer loop that goes from 0 to n, and an inner loop that handles number of spaces that goes from 0 to k, and it prints the number of spaces. Now we're going to decrement k after each loop. So if it's 4 on the first line, it'll only print 3 on the next line, and then 2, and then 1, and so on. Now we need a second inner loop to handle the number of columns in which the values change according to the outer loop. This is the loop that prints the pattern to be printed. So it loops from 1 to I plus 1, and it prints the asterisk plus a space. Now again, we would have to have this print function, so it goes to the next line. So let's just run this. And this is what we get. Now, if we want to print the opposite of that, if we want to print an inverted equilateral triangle, we'll again input number of rows, and we'll assign K is equal to 2 into M minus 2. So we'll have an outer loop that goes from M to minus 1, and this minus 1 is so that it decrements, and then another inner loop that goes from K to 0, and this again minus 1, so it decrements, and then it prints spaces. Now, in the last program, we had decremented K, but we don't want to do that here. Instead, we increment K. Now we have another inner loop that goes from 1 to I plus 1, and we print asterisks and a space, and again, this print function is to go to the next line after each outer loop iteration. So let's run that. And this is how it looks. Now the last program is to print a sideways equilateral triangle using the asterisk symbol. So we will input the value of K, which is the number of rows, and then we'll have an outer loop looping from 1 to K plus 1, and an inner loop looping from 1 to I plus 1. This prints the asterisk plus a space. Now, this first loop, this whole first loop only prints this much of the program. Now we still need the rest. So we're going to have another nested loop. The next nested loop goes from K plus 1 to 0, and this minus 1 is so we know that it decrements. And the inner loop goes from 1 to I plus 1, and it prints the asterisk plus a space. And then again, we know that this goes to the next line. So if we add this first nested loop together with the second nested loop, we'll get this output. So let's run this. And this is how it looks. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope you all liked it. And if you have any doubts, then please let me know.
Okay, thanks, Megan. Very nicely done. So, audience, any questions for Megan here? So she demonstrated a lot of pattern printing programs. Anybody has any questions? Okay, so I think that covers all. And this is one of our AI ML students. Let me try the other presentation again by Aryan Chaudhary from UK. And this will be our last one.
Hello everyone, my name is Aryan Chaudhary and today I will be presenting the game Rock, Paper, Scissors.
Can you hear this
Yeah,
guy?
we can't see the presentation.
So in this game, 2 or more people randomly have to pick between the options rock, paper and scissors. Depending on what they pick, they either win, lose or draw. So in
Can
the
you
game,
hear now?
usually you have different hand motions for rock,
Yes, sir.
scissors, which you have to do, which are presented here. And in the game, rock beats scissors, paper beats rock, and scissors beats paper. So in the code, you randomly import the choices, and the choices are here: rock, paper, and scissors. And the computer has to have random choices because if the computer knows what to do, it'll just win.
So it's a rock,
And
paper, scissors game.
the computer and player score both start at 0, so we can count the scores. And here we do a while loop. So now we ask the user for their option, rock, paper, scissors, and then suppose the player and the computer both choose the same one, it'll print tie. And if the player chooses rock and the computer chooses paper, you will lose because rock doesn't beat paper, and the computer covers the player. So the computer score is incremented by 1. So now the score is 1-0 to the computer. Else, it'll print, you win, and player smashes the computer. Player score will be incremented by 1. So another option is suppose the player picks paper and the computer picks scissors.
So anyway, I think we saw the code before. Game. So this was by Aryan from UK, and I had shown you the other program from our London student Vishwa Modi for data prep. I think that sort of completes our presentations for today.